Hey everybody, welcome back. After a week-long hiatus, we are returning with a special mid-season check-in and perhaps even a little bit of a preview for what is to come in the second half. I'm your host, Zang, and I am once again joined by Ace. Ace, we're halfway through. How you doing, man?
Yeah! Oh, man. It's crazy to think we're already halfway through this fantasy season.
It's hard to believe it, I know. But hopefully the first of, just the beginning of a long story in this dynasty. I know I I have to keep saying that to myself. Like it's the long play. It's not just this season. So
you're looking to dominate for years on end, not win the first match. But, obviously bragging rights, win the first ever dynasty league.
Never hurts. Never hurts. Well,
that's a title that you can't ever give away or replicate.
Only one person ever gets it. It's true.
Yeah, one of one.
Well, we will start off at the beginning of the year. I did just a little bit of a draft recap survey for all of you. The responses, like I said, were totally anonymous, so I hope everyone was as honest as they could be. I was saying to Ace before we started recording, there are some pretty interesting answers based on what we now know of where the league is. So we'll start off with the best hitting core. So who has the best hitters? Minor league and major leagues. 28.6% had Oki Sooner with the best hitting core. The next largest portion was for Bose with 28.6. So actually tied there with Oki, pardon me. 14.3 for both JMC and Big Peach, and Serial Chiller as well. So I know it's a little interesting seeing Serial Chiller, who's down in the basement of the league, and Oki, who's kind of in the bottom half of the league. But the other three definitely stick out pretty strong. JMC, Bose, and Peach have all been really strong teams this year. Hideki is probably a noticeable omission there, although we'll see that becoming kind of a theme with these. The next one was the best pitching staff. Surprisingly, only 14.3% said Flaming Prius. I don't know how we voted that with Skeens and Scooble on his list.
Yeah,
Never mind
crazy.
What Hunter Brown would become. 14.3 also for Big Peach and Ace. Al Martinet also had 14.3, nice little cut there, and I had to vote for 14.3 as well, which is pretty funny considering where my situation is at right now. And then again, leading is Oki Sooner with a 28.6 there, so some people were pretty high on both his hitting and pitching staff there. Right now, in terms of league standings, Oki Sooner is in 8th place, so just a couple, outside of the playoffs, but certainly not that, dominant force that was predicted based on those two.
Yeah, you also have to think too that a lot of trades have happened since that survey was taken. So many of these teams are nowhere near the same. So we'll read off the top 10 best bats and potent pitchers here in a minute, but you'll notice that a lot of the people that got voted highly in terms of having a best at a certain position probably aren't so high on the list, given a lot of the trades that were made. Prius is just, I don't even know how that happened. So
yeah, that was a crazy miss by us.
We'll mark that one as a mulligan, but yeah.
Definitely. Well, the next one I'll cover is best and worst drafts. And the idea with these was, long-term overall. It's not just who's going to win first year, but, who built a good major league team and a good kind of minor league team there. With worst draft, Prius actually had 14.3 there, as well as Al Martinet and Mike, which is maybe the most surprising, along with Prius, of those two. Mike and Prius have been running the top of the table for a few weeks now. And then tied for 28.6, having also kind of worst draft, Serial Chiller, which again, being in the basement definitely makes some sense. But Hideki got a couple of votes here, which is really, really surprising. Again, knowing how dominant he's been in the league near the top of the table. It seems like he's really surprised a number of people. And then over on best draft overall, Oki Sooner got that 14.3%, just one vote, as well as Mike. And then with 2 votes, we had Big Peach for the best draft. But taking the cake over there with 3 votes, we had JMC, who had 42.9% of people saying that he had the best draft overall, long-term and short-term.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see JMC kind of start to rebound a lot more, kind of seeing him perform, I think, what we were expecting in the beginning of the season. Obviously, kind of got shafted in that first weeks with the scoring changes and things like that. So had a bit of a rough start to the season, but he's bouncing back. He's right there in the playoff contention, and it's going to be a dogfight for like the 4, 5, 6 spot in these playoffs. 1 to 3, like we talked about in the previous episodes, pretty much cemented at this point. With a Flaming and Mike probably battling for 1 and 2, and Hideki is probably firm in there at number 3, barring a massive fall off from him. But we'll see what happens. But I think it's going to be an insane fight for those last 3 spots, and JMC right in the middle of it. And his lineup is coming alive at the right time.
Absolutely. And this is a little preview for our next episode, which will be coming out soon. But there is a pretty clear point when JMC started kind of turning things around. And once I say it, it's not going to be much of a surprise why that is. So, good to see there. And that's a little sprinkle of a preview for our next episode. And then finally, who was your pick to finish first place? Who's your pick to finish last place in the first year? Receiving just 1 vote each to finish last place, we had Serial Chiller, Flaming Prius, Hideki, Ace, and JMC. Some surprising names there for sure. Again,
who the hell voted Flaming?
Yeah, they must have just not been looking at the pitching staff there. I'm sure, because you can't look at Scooble and Skeens, or maybe they're projecting those guys have kind of slumps after their big years last year. I don't know, but surprising there for sure. But leading the pack with 28.6% of the vote was Al Martinet. People thought he was going to be finishing last place there. And, he is down nearer to the bottom of the table in the sort of bottom third there in 9th place, but certainly not in last place just yet. And then, for the big reveal, of course, who's going to finish in first place, who's going to win the league. There was a tie, each receiving 1 vote. Oki Sooner, who clearly got a lot of love in those hitting and pitching categories. Al Martinet also got a vote here, which I thought was kind of funny. And then also Flaming Prius. So some people were giving him, some shine on that pitching staff. And then tied with 28.6% each, Bose and JMC, 2 big-time contenders. And, exciting to see. So that's a little, reminder of where we were at the beginning of the year, but we are now at the middle of the year. So let's take a little time.
We've come a long way.
We have certainly come a long way. And just thinking back to where we were and, my thoughts on some people's lineups and their pitching staffs and all that stuff. It's, a lot can change in a few months. So
yeah.
Why don't we get started off with the best bats? We will be covering the top 10 bats. This is just by points, not by, they really won this tight matchup or anything. This is just raw points. And once we get to around the top 5, Ace will start throwing in some extra stats to kind of emphasize, how they came around and their types of production. So in 10th place, the shortstop for your Houston Astros, we have Jeremy Pena with 313.8 points, owned by Al Martinet. In 9th place, your shortstop for the Athletics with 317 points for Al Martinet. Jacob Wilson, the undrafted Jacob Wilson. I cannot get over that. He was undrafted and he is top 10 in all batters. That's crazy.
Legend.
Just nuts. Legend. Yeah, I was going to do a segment that was like, what is the best waiver wire pickup? And I just took it out because I was like, there's no point. It's so obvious.
Not
Jacob
even
Wilson.
close.
Like, there's just no chance.
That's
it's not.
Crazy.
In 8th place, the center fielder for your Chicago Cubs with 321.3 points. Pete Crow Armstrong playing
PCA.
for Flaming Prius. PCA. We love it. A great steal there for Prius. I know, obviously, we didn't know he was going to be this kind of hitter coming into the year. Impressive work. In 7th place with 328 points, playing for Hideki, the shortstop, Bobby Witt Jr. for the
Probably
Kansas City Royals.
First name on here that you could, you see him and you're like, that makes sense.
Yeah, he would be. Oh, yeah. If we need these
Top 10
preseason predictions, Bobby's going to be on there. if you told me, Pena's on here, I would have said, no, you're lying.
You told me Jacob Wilson's on here. I'm like, who the fuck is Jacob Wilson?
Jacob Wilson, dude.
Jesus.
Owen Wilson? No.
Yeah.
In sixth place, the shortstop. Boy, a lot of shortstops on here, I'm realizing. The shortstop for your Arizona Diamondbacks with 329.1 points, Geraldo Perdomo. For in 10, a traded player. I believe our first traded player on here. We'll get down to that again in a little bit later. But that is your 10 through 6. Before we move on to that top 5, any thoughts, Ace?
I mean, obviously some surprises, like we mentioned. The fact that Bobby Witt's probably the only name out of those first 5 you mentioned that preseason predictions would have at this point in time here in the top 10. So that just goes to show you fantasy is completely unpredictable, and you can put as much skill and talent as you think you can into this, and it will just slap you sideways and laugh at you in the face. So, I also, like you mentioned, very interesting the fact that there's 4 shortstops already here in the top 10. Kind of
4 shortstops and a center fielder. I mean, not typically your slugging positions that you think of as top scorers, but pretty cool to see. And man, Perdomo might be the most surprising name on there for me. I mean, Pena has
really not Jacob Wilson.
Not Jacob Wilson. I should say. You're right. Other than Jacob Wilson, I think Perdomo's the most surprising name.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, obviously he got that contract, but like, I think we all kind of understood it as like a glove first sort of, bottom of the order, just like mainstay type contract. Like he wasn't supposed to be this great hitter, and all of a sudden 329 points he's putting up here, for in 10, and that's more than Bobby Witt, who I think went in the first round. Like, will it sustain throughout the year? Probably not, but very impressive.
He's here.
He's here now. Yeah, exactly. Well, moving into the top 5, we will see a few more names that might have been in your preseason predictions. Number 5 on the best bats list with 338 points, the right fielder for the Chicago Cubs, Kyle Tucker, owned by Zang.
Yeah, the Cubs, man, having a couple of outfielders on here talking, and Seiya, that's the other one too. So what an outfield!
Probably not too far down the list. Yeah,
yeah, probably not too far down the list. Yeah, so what an outfield for Chicago there. But like Zang mentioned, a little bit of some fun facts here. He's averaging 4.45 points per game. And he was the 9th overall pick in the entire league. So living up to the standards in which he was drafted at, or I guess you could argue he's exceeding those standards in which he was drafted at. Performing 4 spots better. But yeah, not too much of a surprise that Kyle Tucker's up here. We know the kind of talent he possessed, and obviously seeing him in Houston, now in Chicago, he's insane. The Cubs this year are insane, and that entire outfield is a huge reason why.
Yeah, and not that this affects fantasy, but he is about to get a fucking bag.
He's going to get paid big time.
Number 4 with 556.8 points, the first baseman for your Mets, Pete, the Big Meat Pete. Polar Bear Pete Alonso. He's got too many nicknames.
You said 556 is 356.
356. Thank you.
If he had 556, he would be like MVP of the league.
I think he would comfortably be on the top by now. Thank you. Yeah, 556.
Yeah, he would be 120 points clear. Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
anyways,
putting up a casual 1,000 burger for the year.
For
356. Thank you.
So Pete Alonso, obviously owned by Mike, averaging 4.54 points per game this year. We were talking about Kyle Tucker was the 9th overall pick. Pete Alonso was a 9th round pick. So a huge steal, all things considered, where he is ranking so far in the year for Mike. I don't believe he was a trade acquisition.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, I think Mike drafted him straight up. So this was just an insane draft pick by Mike here. And the Polar Bear is doing insane things. I want to talk about insane teams. The Mets are one of those teams in the NL that, along with the Cubs, along with the Dodgers, along with, some of these other top tier teams, they are competing. And Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, obviously these guys are huge reasons why. But yeah, the Polar Bear, man, he's having an unbelievable season so far.
Fantastic. Speaking of unbelievable seasons, number 3 with 354 points, Shohei Ohtani. Starting pitcher / DH for the Dodgers. He is up there at number 3.
Yep, Ohtani, first overall pick to nobody's surprise by Bose, averaging 4.6 fantasy points per game. Like I mentioned, first overall pick. So, I mean, it's really tough when you're the first overall pick because unless you are the best player, nobody's ever going to justify you being the number 1 overall pick. However, for dynasty purposes, Ohtani by far deserved to be the number 1 overall pick, and he is playing, up to that standard. I'd argue if he was performing in the top 5, which he is, that would be worthy of taking him with number 1 overall. But yeah, I mean, nothing needs to be said about him. It's Ohtani. Guy rakes, guy can pitch. It's, on to the next one.
That's just a piece to look out for Ohtani. He just started pitching. He's pitched, 2 innings?
Yeah. 3 innings in total.
3 innings in total.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah, it was 2 innings.
Just 1 inning in each start, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, so, that's going to start adding up, and that's where his value really starts coming in, because like we talked about, this is this is a league where he accrues points for both. So you really get that full Ohtani value. So wouldn't shock me if he is a little bit higher up the list at the end of the year.
Yeah,
your runner-up for best bats points, number 2 with 357.2 points, the catcher for your Seattle Mariners, Cal Raleigh.
Yeah, big dumper, big dipper, man. I mean, this guy is fantastic. Some would argue he's the best catcher in the league. I'd like to give that honor to Will Smith, but you could certainly make the case
totally
that he
unbiased.
is totally unbiased. But you could definitely make the statement that he is the best catcher in the AL by far this season, at least. Like you mentioned, 357 points. Insane value for a catcher position. Mike drafted him in the 5th round. That one I know for a fact Mike drafted him because he is a Mariner. So I don't even have to look that up. That Mike traded for him. It makes sense that he would have taken him. And to get the player so far in the season that is 2nd overall in terms of points scored in the 5th round, that's pretty insane value. Almost eclipsing that 5 fantasy points per game mark that only one individual so far has done, and leading into that, wonder who it could be.
Number 1 with 390.9 points, the right fielder for your New York Yankees, Aaron Judge.
Yeah. Nobody's surprised here. Shocker. The dude who was hitting 400 well into June is top of the fantasy points. Who could have figured? So yeah, I mean, like Shohei, Judge really needs no introduction. The fact that he is basically 30-plus points clear of the next guy is absolutely fucking insane. So just take that for what you will. He's 33 points clear of Cal Raleigh. He's averaging 5.08 fantasy points per game. The only player, or the only batter, I should say, to average 5+ points per game. He's on the same pace that he was last year. Drafted 3rd overall, so yeah, I think he's exceeding his expectations. And his highest score of the entire season in one singular game was against Mike back all the way on March when he put up basically 34.9 points on that day. So, yeah, I mean, these top 3 players here, Judge, I mean, Cal Raleigh is definitely a value pick, but Ohtani, Judge, Tucker, these guys were top 10 picks, and they are proving why they belonged top 5 drafted.
Absolutely.
Top 10 drafted.
Yeah, that 34.9 was against Milwaukee. I may have abbreviated it wrong there, the MKE. But, yeah.
My fault.
No worries. I just looked it up. It's MIL on all the other things, so that's my mistake. But that 5.0 is maybe the craziest stat on that list. I mean, never mind that he's on the same pace as last year when he had one of the best offensive seasons ever. Never mind that he put up 34.9 in a single game, which is like a great start for a starting pitcher. 5.0 points per game is absolutely unheard of. I mean,
that's just ridiculous.
It's absurd. You think about that. Your batter gets 5 points. You're like, wow, great day. On average, every day he's putting that up for, and it's just it's unbelievable. Like
I think it's also just insane to kind of funny how it played out in this league that the top 2 best bats are both players that are on hometown teams. Like obviously JMC is a New York fan. Mike is a huge Mariners fan. So like that's crazy to me at the hometown. Like usually, if you're a homer in fantasy, it's usually the death of you.
Oh, big time.
They end up sucking and it's like, great, my team sucks and my fantasy team sucks. So I can't have like nothing but, not the case for these guys. It's nothing but happy watching for them.
Nothing but good there for them. Well, let's move on down to our potent pitchers. We'll start off with number 10 for the San Francisco Giants, putting up 367.4 points. Robbie Ray, owned by Big Peach. Definitely a surprise up here. Number 9, pitching for the Houston Astros and Hideki with 369.7. Framber Valdez.
Not the only Houston Astro on here, though.
Not the only Houston Astro. That's true. I think maybe one of only 2 repeat teams. No, 3. Pardon me. Number 8, one of those teams with multiple people. Starting pitcher for the New York Yankees, 377.4. Carlos Rodon, owned again, hometown team by JMC. Number 7, fellow San Francisco Giant with 406.2 points. Logan Webb, owned by Bose, and rounding out our 10 through 6 with 407 points for the Philadelphia Phillies. Zach Wheeler, owned by Ace.
Yeah,
that's right. Any thoughts on that bottom 5 of the top 10 there?
Unlike the bats, this is definitely a bit more kind of, maybe understandable is the wrong word here, but it makes a lot more sense. I think Wheeler, Webb, Rodon, Valdez, Ray, these are all guys you look on their teams like, I'd argue they are the ace of their team, or, the number 2 on their team, the 1-2 punch, if you will. So, I got no surprises here for me. Obviously the order can be a little bit more jumbled than maybe I think who's more talented. But yeah, this seems pretty right.
Pretty solid. Yeah, the pitchers have definitely, I would say, aside from number 5, which it doesn't look like, it doesn't look off when you watch him pitch, but I don't think anyone would have predicted that coming into the year. Like, yeah, these are pretty close to the top 10 pitchers we would have picked. Again, Robbie Ray is kind of a surprise. Rodon has been better than we thought he was going to be, but obviously, all of these names definitely stand out there. So, pitching, it is funny, often considered kind of the more volatile side of things, has been a little bit more consistent here. Before we, let's move on, and then after we'll move on to a quick single award. So number 5, previously mentioned, Houston Astro with 411.4 points. Hunter Brown, playing for Flaming Prius.
Yeah, Hunter Brown. Well, you want to talk about Prius's insane pitching staff. This is the first piece of it right here, and we're not even into the top 2 yet.
He's a top 5 pitcher, and he's the third best one on Prius's staff.
The third best one. Oh, Jesus Christ! All right. Anyways, this is going to be just a glazed Prius. Segment here. Anyways, so this is, although he is Prius's third best pitcher, he is by far Prius's most valued pitcher in terms of where he took him. Hunter Brown was a 10th round pick, which I think out of the entire, out of the top 5 batters and the top 5 pitchers in fantasy so far this year, Hunter Brown is definitely the lowest draft pick from our draft this year. Pete Alonso was the lowest batter in the 9th round. Hunter Brown has that beat in the 10th round. So just insane. 27.4 points per game for Prius. It's a big reason why he is at the top of the league right now. And I say all this, and like we mentioned, he's not even one of the 2 best pitchers on his staff. So let's just go ahead and move on.
Let's keep moving on. We'll take a break from Prius Glaze as we move on to number 4 with 427.2 points. Pitcher for the New York Yankees, Max Fried.
Yeah, I want to talk about surprise of the year. Hunter Brown is right there, and Max Fried, I'd argue, is right behind him because although Max Fried has shown he has nasty stuff in the past, obviously injuries were the biggest of his concern, and if he was going to bounce back or not. I think he bounced back. I think he bounced back in a pretty big way, stepping up big time for a Yankees pitching staff that was in search of an ace once Cole went down in the preseason. So, yeah, he has certainly found his footing in New York. 26.7 points per game, and like we were mentioning, value picks. This guy was an 8th round pick. So, huge fantasy season so far for Max Fried. As far as dynasty is concerned, I'm not sure what his value will be like moving forward. Depends on what team he goes to and if he's able to maintain this. But if he is, obviously that is an absolute steal. And regardless, Oki, this is his ace for this season for sure.
Time. Yeah, and I mean he is signed into a 7 or 8 year deal with the Yankees. So look, if you're getting paid, you're getting start. So he will at least probably be posting, unless of course that dreaded TJ comes around. I know, with Max Fried, obviously, if I'm remembering this stat right, I think from like 2021 through going into the 2024 season or something. I don't have the numbers exactly right. I don't have it on me. This is just sort of off of memory. I think he had the lowest ERA in the entire league. So wow. He's put up these crazy numbers before. It's just, like you mentioned, there have been some injuries, especially last year, which there were some concerns. And man, moving to Yankee Stadium is a concern as well, especially, for a lefty pitcher where righties can kind of take him oppo more easily. Obviously, he's more comfortable against lefties, hitting it to the short porch. But he has been everything the Yankees could have asked for and more. Speaking of pitchers in the AL East who are everything their team could have asked for and more, number 3 with 428.3 points for your Boston Red Sox, Garrett the Pig Crochet.
Shocker, he's owned by you, another hometown kid. Garrett Crochet, yeah. Man, the Red Sox, weird season they've been having. I think you can agree with that. And I'm being very, very generous with my wording there.
I'm not even joking when I say you all missed out on like an all-time crash out last weekend.
Oh, man.
Like
I wish you would have done a show last week.
I was moving stuff, from the car. He got traded on Sunday. My wedding was on Saturday, so it was all this stuff we needed to move from the car. And I was I would like move stuff, and then I'd walk down back to the car, and I would just like stand in the driveway blankly staring at the ground. I was so fucked up. It was really bad. And then I had meant to take Kumar out of my minors and didn't, and that ended up being the difference and put me onto a losing streak that is continuing through this week. I was an absolute mess. So for my dignity, I am glad we didn't have a show, but that crash out would have been sensational.
It would have. We would have started that show. It would have just been, all right, guys. Welcome back. Like there would have been no enthusiasm whatsoever in that show.
Welcome back to the Lollygaggers Dynasty.
Yeah.
I'm your host.
This is the Baseball's Depression podcast.
Well, at least I didn't own Raffy. Would have been a lot worse if I owned him and I had to deal with that.
This is true. But yeah, so moving away from that, on to shine a somewhat positive ray of hope on this Red Sox season. Garrett Crochet has been an absolute, I was going to say an anomaly, but that's not the right word. A revelation. That's the better word I was looking for the Red Sox and their pitching staff. For you, Zang, averaging 26.8 points per game. He was a 3rd-round pick. So 3rd-round pick sounds insane, although in Dynasty, batters go very, very heavy in the first 2 rounds. It's very rare you're going to see pitchers go. However, when you, I don't know what happens when you have back-to-back picks, but I guess when you have some voodoo devil magic working for you and you sprinkle some magical fairy dust on them and they turn into the 2 best pitchers in the league. So why don't you go ahead and read off saying what...
We'll group these together. Number 2 and number 1 are both owned by Flaming Prius with 428.8 and 436.8 Polsteins and Tarek Skubal, the 2 best and 2 youngest pitchers in the league, both owned by the same guy.
What the fuck? What happened? Where did we go wrong as a league?
He had the wraparound pick and chose pitching early. And man,
yeah, he had the wraparound pick, and now he's giving the entire league a wraparound. This is insane, man. Almost 900 points combined from your top two picks.
Yeah, 900 between the two of them. Picked 12th and 13th overall. Both averaging over 25 points a game. 26 for Skeens, 29 for Skubal. It is no wonder why Prius is at the top of the league. And again,
it's dominance is what it is.
I have to go back and say that and again, this is totally anonymous, so I'm sorry if I'm kind of outing you here, but worst draft, somebody did have Prius. And again, this isn't pitching isn't everything, but that's a tough call to say worst draft when you have these two leading off.
Yeah, that's I really wish I want to know who voted for Prius with that, but maybe they just thought his batting or his batters were rough, but yeah man,
PCA's helped out there a lot for sure. An interesting note here.
PCA too.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Prius.
Big time. Only one team did not appear on this list having either a top 10 arm or a top 10 bat, and that was Serial Chillers.
God.
We do know has been having a tough year. Curse or not, it has been certainly a bit of a tough go for our Cleveland-bound friend, but hopefully some of his players will pick it up. I know he's got J-Ram over on that squad, and he's, a kind of guy who you could definitely see sneaking into the top 10 there with, in terms of best batters and all that. So,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that'll do it. Those are the top 10 at each batter and pitcher position.
That's it. Halfway through, and of course, at the end of the season, we'll do this again, and we'll do a little bit of a comparison. See, halfway through the season, they were there. They stayed right there. They got way better. Oh, where did this guy come from? All that kind of stuff. So, we are certainly looking forward to that. We'll move down to just a couple more segments real quick before we get out of here. First thing we want to talk about is a little bit of trade talk. So 2 questions answered by Ace and me. What is the biggest trade so far, and what is the biggest fleece so far? So I'll lead us off on the first question, and Ace will lead us off on the second. For me, the biggest trade so far is between Al Martinet and Mike. Mookie and Belly for Vlad, Walker Jenkins, and Alex Freeland. That is just an enormous trade. I mean, Mookie and Vlad alone being moved is huge. Belly, former league MVP, certainly not what he once was, but is still a big-time player, and I have given Walker Jenkins all of my flowers. I think that, especially from a dynasty standpoint, he is one of the players you want to own, and I'm certainly glad that I now own him or have him on my team there. And Alex Freeland, again, Dodgers shortstop prospect, no slouch there. So just big-time names being moved, and that's a big move, man, to trade Vlad, to trade Mookie, to trade a top 5 prospect in all of baseball in Walker Jenkins. Seeing all those guys along with Belly and Freeland being moved, that to me felt like the biggest, whoa, trade that I've seen so far.
Yeah, definitely was the biggest trade in my opinion as well. Although, once I saw you had that one, I couldn't really copy you on it. But yeah, I agree. This was a trade that shook up the league for sure. And shocker, it involved Mike, who shocker, in a spoiler alert, was also in my biggest trade of the year.
Mike's
so
been trading
far.
A lot. What?
Mike's been trading a lot. But yeah, I think this definitely was the trade that kind of set in. I don't want to say set in stone, but definitely painted the picture that Mike was going all in this year, giving away a lot of those minor league players, and then kind of waltzing right into my trade as well. Mine was between Inten and Mike as well, and it was Manuel Clase and Tyler Soderstrom for Geraldo Perdomo and Daniel Varsho. Obviously, Inten receiving Perdomo and Varsho, and Mike receiving Clase and Soderstrom. We talked about Perdomo being one of the top 5 best batters, top 6 best batters so far during the season. However, looking at it, Soderstrom is also having an insane season. Out of the utility men, I think he's number 3 out of all of them, which is pretty great. And also Emmanuel Clase. I mean, it's Clase, so he's going to be a staple for your bullpen and your closing staff. So kind of piggybacking off the trade you mentioned, I think this is just Mike going all in this season. And, I think he has pushed all his eggs into this year. So I almost feel like it's kind of sucks to say, but I almost feel like if Mike doesn't win this season, it's going to be a huge disappointment. But his team, looking at it this season, is insanely stacked, so it's kind of hard to see him not winning it.
It is looking very strong for sure. Varsho, Dalton Varsho there, he's been relatively disappointing, still under 100 points on the year, but talked about how great Perdomo's been, and Soderstrom, along with those young A's, has just been fantastic. Definitely some, maybe not the biggest names in this one moving, but a ton of points and talent going across, and young guys like Soderstrom too is definitely important. Let's move on down to biggest fleece so far of the year. Ace, who have you got?
Listen, I was gonna go with a different trade, but then this guy started his career with like 7 no-hit innings, and I was like, oh, okay, so he's him. So my biggest fleece so far was I'm so gonna butcher this, Misiorowski.
I think it's Misiorowski.
Misiorowski.
Yeah.
For Wilson Contreras, and that was you sending Misiorowski to me for Wilson Contreras. At the time, we were both kind of neck and neck right there in the playoff race. And my catching room was full, still is full, by the way, if anybody's looking for a catcher. Thank you, boy. So I was definitely looking to move Contreras. He was also losing the catcher eligibility after this season. So, definitely just looking to move on from him. I needed some young prospects. I drove a hard bargain. He got called up, and lo and behold, he's pretty damn good. It looks like.
Yeah, not bad.
not bad at all.
Not bad at all. I will say, in defense of myself, Contreras has been very good. It's just a fleece because almost as soon as I made this trade, I completely fell out of contention, and he is very much like a win now piece. And for a retooling team like myself, Misiorowski would be a great pitcher to have. So I had a feeling that one was going to be on here. It has made me much more careful with my pitching prospects. So I was sort of like, pitcher, whatever, throw a bit for Contreras, we'll make it happen. And no sorry, Bob. Contreras top 3 in catchers for the year though, so he has been pretty good. But situationally for me, big time fleece, and has been phenomenal for your pitching staff. And hopefully he continues showing out well for the Brewers and for your team there.
Yeah, for the pitching staff that I have that has just been absolutely eviscerated by injuries, he's definitely been a welcome sight.
He's been helpful for sure. Well, my biggest fleece of the year so far, to no one's surprise, involves Mike, since he is, I don't know who I was joking around with, but I think he and Al Martinet at some point are just going to switch rosters from the ones they drafted, other than like the Mariners, who I'm sure Mike will hold on to. But Mike loves to trade, we know that. And for me, it's this Freddie Peralta and Jason Dominguez move. Jason Dominguez is obviously a future play. He is a much younger player than Peralta. I think he still technically has rookie eligibility, even though he's been, up and down since 2023. But just in terms of raw points, and this trade was made, I believe, either preseason or like right in the middle of the first week. So these points are pretty real to, who's got what. Mike has Freddie Peralta, who's scored 320 points for him, and JMC has Jason Dominguez, who scored only 137 points. So that is, a pretty significant spread for 2 win-now teams, and, this could certainly turn around once, Dominguez gets some more regular time, but for right now, that is definitely looking like a big sway for Mike in this trade.
Yeah, that's a huge point differential, 320 to 137.
Yeah.
You want to talk about one-sided.
Whew. Yeah, that's a little scary. But, Dominguez, I think this is not what I'm terribly worried about. I think he'll probably be pretty good. But again, for 2 contending teams right now, you definitely want to have Freddie Peralta there. Moving down to our predictions section, we have a couple sections. Who's going to finish in last place, And then what 6 teams will make the playoffs? So not predicting first place as of right now, but who's going to be in last, and then who will be our playoff teams. I'll start off with my prediction. I do actually believe that I will be the team in last place by the end of the year. I have been sliding since week 6. It's not getting better. And I think I pointed this out on the pod. What I kind of noticed as like an indicator that a regression was coming. I am last place in points by over 100 behind the second to last team, and by 1,200 by the first place team. So I am so far back in points. Those 4 wins really are looking more like situational matchups than anything. So I'm predicting myself to finish in last place there. How about you, Ace? Who do you have finishing in last?
I got Inten finishing in last. You lose to Serial this week. Spoiler alert, Inten lost to Serial this week by 0.6. You lose to Serial this week. That given the curse, it's bad. 4-10 might already be officially eliminated from playoff contention. We've already been seeing him kind of somewhat make moves that he is kind of out of it. We have been kind of talking about it on the pod for a little bit about, can he bounce back? Can he not? This is, a week you really want to see a win here, because 4-10 from 5-9 is a lot different. So yeah, I think unfortunately for this season, it's going to be a rough one for Inten.
Yeah. Tough season for Boston overall, eh?
Yeah.
Well, we'll move on over to our playoff teams. Ace, who are your 6 teams that you predict will be making the playoffs?
So my 6 teams that I am predicting to make the playoffs are Prius, Mike, Hideki, Al Martinet, JMC, and Bose. Yes, I know Al Martinet. I think he's going to make a hell of a resurgence and come up. He is my dark horse candidate to make the playoffs. I did leave myself off. I do think my team is just not performing as to what my record indicates. I am, like you, have been the beneficiary of a lot of selectional matchups, I should say. Having the right matchup a certain week when, players are just not performing well, players are in slumps. But yeah, I do think come end of the season, I will see myself out. And yeah, I just think that these guys, apart from Al Martinet, obviously, I think these guys have been the most consistent. Obviously, Prius, Mike, Hideki, we all kind of agree are like, top 3.
Big time. Yeah, I've got a couple differences from you there, although relatively similar. Like you, I've got Mike, I've got Prius, I've got Hideki, and I've got JMC. My 2 switches I do have, I have Big Peach making the playoffs. His team is looking really good. He's currently sitting in 5th place, and he's just kind of hung around that 4 to 7 spot for a while. I think we could see a good late season resurgence. And Ace, I do have you making the playoffs, my friend. I think you got a solid team there. And just a very close miss by Bo. Obviously, he has a phenomenal team, but I was kind of looking down the roster. I'm a little worried about his pitching staff, and I am very curious to see, I think especially in, not one of the historic seasons that he has, how the Dodgers treat Shohei down the stretch. I wonder if he might be sitting a lot more, if he might be, getting pinch hit or pinch ran for earlier in games, if his numbers might just dip down that little bit. And again, some of those concerns about the pitching staff and that just has me pulling Bose out by a little bit. But yeah, my 6 teams are Mike, Prius, Hideki, JMC, Big Peach, and Ace. Well, let's not hold them off any longer, Ace. Let's get down to our finals matchup and who will be the winner of the league. So I'll give my finals matchup. Let's have you give your finals matchup, and then we'll each share who we think our winner is going to be. I have got JMC versus Flaming Prius. I said it was going to be next episode. It's actually going to be this episode. JMC got hot pretty much as soon as Ronald Acuna came back. And yeah, obviously, because he's one of the best players in the league. And you see he's got Acuna and Judge in there. He has been unbelievable. I think he's on a pretty solid win streak right now. And I've got JMC making it to the finals there and a little bit of a, I don't want to say a Cinderella run, but, a come from behind victory, being down at the bottom of the table earlier on. And then, of course, we've talked all about Flaming Prius's pitching staff. I think that's going to carry him right to a final.
Yeah, similar to you, I do have Flaming making the final here as well. However, I believe his opponent is going to be Mike. I think these have been the two best teams by far, to really nobody's surprise. Obviously, like we mentioned, Flaming's pitching staff is just out of this world. However, Mike's batters are just absolutely insane, led by none other than the Big Dumper himself, Cal Raleigh. So I think this is going to be a fantastic first championship matchup to start the Dynasty League. I do have Mike winning it. I do think the batters, although Flaming has the two best pitchers in fantasy this year, I do think the batters, just because they do play more, they contribute more, similar to how in real life, batters are typically the ones that win MVP in the league. The Cy Youngs, that's technically reserved for the pitchers. It would take an absolutely, historic season from one of Flaming's pitchers to, take that mantle. But I think when it's all said and done, Mike's going to have the most points just given the amount of times his batters are playing. And it's gonna be insane regardless. All
right, so you got Mike as your champion. We both have Flaming Prius in here in our finals matchup, and I do have him winning the league. I can't quit that pitching staff, man. They are unbelievable. I'm thinking about actually, as I'm talking to myself about this, I'm thinking Skubal and Skeens down the stretch are either locked into a playoff spot or probably not competing. That could be a little interesting. Cal Raleigh's a really interesting one there. He's probably going to be in a tight playoff race, but Prius has got so much going for him. I think that he is going to be our first Dynasty League champion.
Yeah, very excited. We're halfway there, guys. Almost there.
Alrighty. We will see you very soon for a recap of Week 13. Thanks for checking in and listening in this halfway through the season, mid-season check-in. This was a lot of fun, and we are looking forward to seeing you soon.
Here's to 12, 13, 14 weeks more.
Sounds good.
Do you know what that makes you, Larry?
Lollygaggers.
Lollygaggers.